we'll make it work. But yeah, you can
Yeah,
continue the thought you had.
yeah. Well, I just let's see, what was I saying? Um, I
He
feel like
stretches us. Yeah.
yeah, he like I feel like if you I'd be like if you asked me, it'd be like, oh yeah, a week or a month without a job, or maybe 2 months, 3 months, but he's like, I'm gonna give him 2 years. I mean, that hasn't happened to me, but his timeline is like so different than ours, and it just seems like he he believes in our ability so much more than we do, and so we think we can only last a short period, and we go back to these mental pathways in our mind of like giving up, or not believing in him so quickly, uh and it's totally different. So he's willing he's willing to stretch us so much farther than we're willing to be stretched, or we want to be stretched. And I don't know, he's always right. He's right for sure, but it's not comfortable what he wants to do to us. It's not comfortable. I
There's a
don't like
reason it's
it.
not comfortable. It's because he sees the big picture. He's willing to do that. I've been saying this a lot recently. He's playing the long game. Sometimes we
Yeah,
want the short term.
exactly.
Just give me this, what I want. I want this job. I want to get out of my parents' house. That's my thought process. Like, we've already been here long enough. I feel like I've been putting in work. I've been doing good stuff. It's like you feel like I feel like you're helping me to stay here and like go deeper on my business or whatever else I'm doing. Now
Yeah,
help me get out. But he's looking at long,
yeah,
long term
yeah,
picture.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's so true. When my son passed away, it was like, holy smokes, and I think I told you he passed away by suicide, right? It was the whole, like, when you're growing up as a parent, you're growing up, you're getting older, and your kids start making mistakes, and they start choosing like different things, and when that happens, you're like, you have to change your perspective to like longer term, right? And then and you're out like a month, and then you get out like a year, or maybe like 6 months, like, okay, 6 months, he can turn things around. And then there's other problems that are like, okay, this is going to take a few years, and then when something like that happens, like when he passes away, it's like, well, okay, now your time frame is totally different. It's not just this life, it's not getting resolved in this life period. So, but it is in the long term, in the next life, and so it is going to work out. But yeah, have you ever read the book The Hiding Place by Corey
No,
ten Boom? Oh,
no.
it's one of my favorite books in the world, Dallin. It's about this family, the hiding. It's about this family in Holland who, they're total Christians. I mean, believers. Like, the dad every day is brings the family together, and they read from the Bible, and then and his wife passes away, and the two of the daughters end up becoming like spinstresses, like, like these single ladies that live with him, and he grows up to be like, 75, 80. And it's a watch shop, actually. um, and then they start, and then the whole World War II happens with the Jews and the Nazis, and they start, out of just a feeling of like duty. He's like, we will help anybody, period. I don't care what happens to us. And and they start harboring Jews, and they actually become part of the like underground. She becomes the leader of the underground without even knowing it, like, and anyway, she talks a lot in that book about the Lord's timing. And the cool thing is, my dog, I gave that book. Anyway, it's called The Hiding Place because they put this false wall in the room, like 3 feet out from the wall. They put this false wall, and they do it in such an incredible way that the Jews know they're hiding. I mean, the Nazis know they're hiding Jews, and they're in that room looking for them, and they can't figure out where the false wall is because it's a skinny wall, and it's all, just this incredible thing. Anyway, I gave the book to my daughter. My daughter goes to Holland, with some friends of ours on this trip when she's like right out of high school, and the watch stop is still open. The hiding place, that, and they go and tour the hiding place. And my daughter buys me a watch from the hiding place. And so, like,
Wow.
whenever I start forgetting that the Lord's timing is better than mine. Like I put this watch on and I'll wear it to class or whatever. And
Oh man.
Betsy, it's either Corey Ten Boom's sister or her. They just talk about in the book how the Lord's timing is perfect. And I used to always want to say like, when I see God, I'm gonna like take off his watch. I'm gonna like pickpocket his watch off his his wristwatch, and I'm gonna like drop it on the floor and smash it because his timing to me was always like so horrible. And anyway, but the book like points out clearly that his timing is like perfect. So
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah. Yeah, there's things we can't do about that, but there's things we can do about that. And he has infinite compassion on us and just helps us out along the way. And I've just been seeing that a lot recently too. But I appreciate you diving into that. Definitely love that the little sneak peek. It's beautiful.
yeah,
So he knows what he's doing. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, well, I think that's a good. We'll just have that be like a separate clip, and then we'll dive into the actual interview here, if that works for you.
cool.
Cool.
Well, it's great to see you, Dallin.
Oh, it's so good to see you too. I'm really,
Uh,
it's cool. It's a treat, big treat. So I'm excited to get
you're
this
you're
out there, and the hope is that people will listen to this after, before they take your class, and like, man, I wanna have that guy as one of my teachers. So it's the hope.
It'll probably be the opposite. They'll be like, "That's the last person in the world I want to take a class from." No,
Okay.
you're an amazing student, and I sure
Oh,
loved
thank
you.
you.
You were so like willing to like just do whatever. In fact, one day like we roped you into singing for the class or something. Do you remember that?
Of course I do.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. School Day Feelings. It's still one of my favorite hymns. Yeah,
yeah,
it's good. It's good stuff. Okay, well, we'll just jump into it. And I do think I'm not, I can't see the future, but I feel like a part of this conversation will come back to that like vision, perspective, the taking it from a longer view. Cause I think that can be really healing, really helpful. And I mean, that is something I've been really trying to work on. So I don't know if we'll go back to that or not, but yeah, we'll just jump into it. We'll have fun with it. And I was planning on going to like, probably have it be like half an hour. So like, or so. I don't know if that works for you, what
yeah,
your next
yeah.
meeting is, but
No, that's great.
maybe talk a tiny bit after, or yeah, just kind of see where it goes. But
Yeah,
yeah, cool, man. Sweet. Welcome back to Yield Today with Dallin Candland. I'm here with Dave Harrell. He works at BYU Idaho. He taught my spreadsheet analysis class, but there's so much more to Dave than that, and super excited to jump in with him. Just with his journey, he worked at Ford. He was CFO of a couple different companies, and just excited to talk with him. He's a remarkable person. So thanks for coming, Dave.
Alan, you're too kind. You're a liar. No, you're too kind. Thank you. I'm super glad to be here and love seeing you. I consider you a good friend. So it's great to see you.
Yeah. Yeah, right back at you. What comes to mind is when we first met, I'm just running into you a couple times on campus, and just kind of getting this good, loving vibe from you. And then, talking to you one other time, you're like on the way to like going on your bike, and I asked you like what some of your self-care practices. Like, well, I love jumping at the trampoline park, and I love doing all this other stuff. And it's like, this guy's the man. It's like we've talked like a couple times. He's just the man. And then later we had a class. You taught a class I was in my last semester. I was like, wow, I'm so 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 glad I did that. Got to get to know you on a different level, because it just, that was like a sneak peek for me of like, this is somebody definitely to keep an eye on, just as somebody to learn tons from his journey and stuff. So yeah, just thrilled to talk with you more about that.
Thanks, Dallin. I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to like students coming to BYU Idaho, or any college, what are some of the first things like you want them to know like about themselves, like going into taking a difficult class? Because your spreadsheet analysis class wasn't any slouch, but it did teach me a lot and like help me grow a lot overall as a person.
Well, that's probably it right there. Is that you can do much harder things than you think you can do. People walk into my class and they're like, they're scared about the class because the class has a reputation for being kind of tough. And sometimes they'll put it off like towards the end of their education. And I've had students come back to me like, tell students, do not put this class off. This is an amazing class. Like, uh, the class, and I don't take any credit for the class. It was created by Jason Kunzler before me, and he was the one that created like this amazing format. And the format of the class, as you know, is you walk into the class and pretty much every day you've got a mini project, and the CEO walks into you and says, "Hey, look, we've got an hour, and you've got to put these three things together, or we're going to slash the budget for the sales department, and we've got this major problem, and go, you know." And everybody in the class just jumps together and they start working on these projects. And the thing is, when you're working together like that in a very dynamic situation, and when you're at home, like doing the homework and just watching the videos and stretching yourself, you will be able to achieve things that you've never been able to achieve before, like in your life. I mean, your brain does get stretched. I had one of my dear students once said, you know, your brain gets stretched in this class, and once it's stretched, it never goes back to where it was before, you know. And so it can be the class is one that will stretch you, but in a good way, and it's amazing. And then it's so practical. When you get an internship or a job, you hit the ground running at that company because you can add value right away. Not like a normal internship that's, you know, where you're making copies on the copy machine or getting coffee for the boss or whatever, you know. But you can actually like add value, and you become extremely important to the team. So, and you'll get, you know, some of the students will get like they'll get like 20, 30 grand pay raises in the first year because the executives realize that this person it is providing a lot of the solutions and answers because of their ability with business analytics and spreadsheets.
Yeah, yeah. I'm remiss. Is that the word? I'm remiss to say that after I took the class, I tried playing around with my project, like my final project, a little bit more, and just kind of lost a little bit of motivation. There's a lot of internal struggle going on, especially right after I graduated, because I had a job lined up that fell through, and I had to kind of take a step back and be like, my mind is having all these like difficulties within itself. I had to rework some things, and it's kind of a painful process, but you just learn so much from that. And but I will echo that, like, you are much more capable of what you thought, and being able to just kind of take a step back. And I'll tell you something I don't think I've ever told you. When I started the class, I had the clear thought in my mind, I'm going to spend an hour on this class every day and just work on it every day, 1 hour in Excel, and I'll be good to go. If I had done that, I promise you, I probably would have been able to contribute more in the class, wouldn't have struggled as much, wouldn't have stressed as much. I was using that dinosaur. That thing is done, actually. That laptop I used in that class thing died, like, pretty soon after. It's done. It was dead. I'd come to your room and work with you, and that thing would take 10 minutes to start up. And I don't even know how we made it through, but that thing is dead as a doornail now.
You should have brought my shotgun into class and put that laptop down. The other problem was that you fell in love that semester, so you were kind of in la la land with I forgot her name, but anyway, so yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had a few good distractions that were worthy distractions.
It was hard. It was so hard to have all these new stimuli and all these new feelings and stuff, but I didn't feel worthy of it, And so, the 1 hour a day thing didn't happen, because the thought that came to mind was like, you'll do too well in this class if you commit to the hour every day, because I know my brain, I'll show up and I'll get better and I'll be able to continue. Instead, what I did was I sort of do the assignments when I could, and just didn't let myself feel like I could live like a wonderful life. Like, that was really how I felt at that time during that semester. It's really hard to put into words, and the best way I can explain right now, I'll be able to explain it better in a couple years, is the best way I can explain now, and this has taken a while to understand, is denial. So I was like, I don't care what anybody thinks about me. This is how I feel about myself, and this for me is my truth. And it led to a lot of negativity, and I remember sharing a lot of it with you one-on-one, and you'd like, here's some noodles my wife made, and I'm like, you're the best. But like, I was struggling with all these things, and I was putting like the laptop, I was thinking of myself as the laptop. Like, I was slow, I was not good enough, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know, it's just crazy how we can get into those patterns.
Yeah, I've had similar feelings most of my whole life. I think most of us do, where we look at other people and we're like, I'm just not them. They're the ones that are smart. They're the ones that are this. They're the ones that are going to make money, be successful entrepreneurs. They're going to be successful in business or whatever. And we judge ourselves, and and for whatever reason, we're our harshest critics. It's stupid and lame. Um,
Yeah.
and we kind of gradually learn our way out of it. Hopefully, if we're like aware of our thoughts, But
Yeah, I think a lot of it starts with creating new boundaries and new relationships, new alliances. That's I call them my like 11th hour friends, and I would consider you as that in a way. I'd reach out to you here and there, like this is how I'm doing, this is how I'm feeling. And I jumped on tons of calls with people and they helped me to get clear perspective, and also meeting with a therapist, was super helpful last year and helping me understand all of these things and just helped me to look forward and accepting that the best was coming, the best wasn't here, the best wasn't in the past. I think when you adopt that kind of mindset, there's so much power with that of like the best is not here yet. Like Jesus told all the time, like, greater things you're going to be able to do. You need to just continue to exercise faith. And obviously there's things in line with that. We have to be in line with commandments and whatever, but he wants the best for us. God wants the best for us, and Christ suffered for us, is what I believe. And that there's sometimes we let ourselves struggle way more than we need to, and sometimes I think the conversation, if we just kind of went back to, I love you, I care about you, I'm looking out for you, you might make some different decisions, but it's a process, man. It's not an event.
yeah, it's so true. And like we were saying before, we go back and forth on like the whole trust thing, where we're like, at some points in my life, I've been like, oh yeah, God's looking out for me. He's like there for me, right? And then before I know it, like, something bad happens and I'm like, he's never going to help me. Like my thoughts are, you know, they swing back and forth without even realizing it. So I'm grateful when I do realize it.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say is somebody that like really has helped you get to where you are as far as like holding your hand and like lifting you up in difficult times? Because you have no small pedigree. I mean, you could be working for some other big company or whatever, but you've devoted yourself to your passion, as it says on your LinkedIn, your ultimate passion, more or less, of like helping, BYU Idaho students. Like, what's helped you get to that point?
I mean, for sure, my wife, like you mentioned, like the dialogues that you've had with people on this podcast, and for us it's been like that. We're having these many podcast dialogues just inside of our house, and she's super smart and super loving and caring, and she's a believe. The cool thing about her is that she's a huge fan of me. Like she believes, she thinks I'm a really great guy. And then of course, Jesus Christ himself has like he's rescued me, like when I've been on this side and trusted him, like, and I mean, he still rescued me even when I'm on this side, but I don't recognize it as quickly as I do. But I felt him like kind of, I've reached out, reached down, I should say, and just kind of and helped me like specifically when I've gone through hard. When I was in my mid 30s, I went through like just this. I had like kind of like three jobs, and it was just overwhelming, super busy time of life, um, and I started going to a therapist, and I was kind of going through like just a major where you're rethinking your life and everything, and that's when I like really, that was probably like one of the major first times when I just I did like what Alma did. I don't know who the audience is on this podcast, but if they're not members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Alma was like a prophet, that lived in the ancient Americas, like an ancient Indian prophet and American Indian, and he like at one point said like I cried unto Jesus, and like that's what I did, and to get help, and the help was there. Like I got help. I got help. Sometimes it was like the short way, and sometimes it was the long way, where I'm learning to overcome my thoughts and learning to overcome anxiety, and OCD thinking and, the stuff I was struggling with. So yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm rambling, but yeah.
No, no,
But
you're
those are, I guess,
beautifully.
okay. No, the question is, who's helped me, and those are for sure the main two people, that have helped me. And friends, like sometimes you gotta have friends. Friends is like, friends are so amazing and great, and they just are like the leavening to life. So guy friends, guys need to have guy friends, girls need to have girlfriends. Like, and couple friends and brothers and
Mhm.
sisters and everything else. But friends are huge.
Yeah,
The
there's
Dallin Canlands of the world. True friend. I put you in the true friend, category. Like, not that we have a super deep friendship, but we have a friendship, a true friendship. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, and you're the kind of guy that is a true person. Like, I talk to you, and it's just like we've always connected because you're sincere. You're not like, like a lot of people put on a fake pretense and want to be viewed a certain way, and you're just like, take me as I am. I'll sing in class and make a total fool of myself. I don't care. So anybody that's willing to make a fool out of himself, I really like those kind of people because I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah. Well, I've just seen so much, especially recently. It's like you've no idea like what one action can lead to like down the road. Like how it could affect things upstream. I've had conversations with people in the last couple days that have like changed my perspective on different things, help me to take new actions. And so I find one way that God really talks to me is when I talk to other people. So that's why
Yeah.
I feel it's really important that I still do these podcasts, that I talk with people as I'm out and about, is like something will just come to mind and I'm like, oh, in this interaction with this person, there's like this in between, like conduit of conversation or something, so to speak, the in between the lines where I'm like, okay, that's beautiful. And now I'm able to, maybe I can apply that to my life, that piece that I just shared with that person, a little piece of that puzzle, that I just shared with that person, I can apply that to my own life.
Yeah, people are incredible, and I feel like when you put a few people in a room together, just two people talking, like magic comes out of it. It's really like really beautiful moments and thoughts that neither one of you have ever had before, and just it's like this incredible joint learning process. Sometimes it happens in class. I wish it happened more, but it does happen, and it's my favorite moments when it does. So that's really cool that you've got like you're learning through this whole podcast. So that's a huge gift.
Yeah, this is the journey, it starts like, middle of sophomore year when we started the podcast, and now it's a little bit of a year after college, and it seems like things are starting to ramp up with the podcast and life and other stuff, and I'm just curious to see what goes on. I've kind of gotten a lot better about bringing my thoughts to God and letting him see what he thinks about things. And I think of my thoughts as a lot of it is sort of like a radio station. Like sometimes I can just be like, okay, that's not worth listening to. We've already heard that song and dance or whatever, and so we're going to mute that. And I think being proactive about that is huge. Like the magic of thinking big has really helped me a lot. Now I keep that in my car. So if I stop my car, I'll read a page from that, or at least some thoughts from that. And that helps like rewire my brain. But I think compassion is where a lot of this comes back to. And that is what you give to students. There's been times where I was like, going to meet with you and I'm like, he's going to think I'm the biggest fool in the world because I'm coming to class this dinosaur and it's like my project's falling apart or whatever. And I don't even know where to start. But you're always like, open as far as like I want to help. I'm here, and if we need to talk like on a I want to listen to you basis, then perfect, because that's often where it starts, and then we can help you take that next step forward. It's, yeah, there's just, I don't know, there's not really any agenda with you. There's just the love and wanting to see the growth. And yeah, I'm just really thankful for you, and that was a beautiful experience because you helped me through a lot of interesting mountains that semester. You helped me go through them.
Well, we yeah. Well, you're so open and vulnerable that you're willing to you know share that with me, and then we could kind of go through them together, which is super really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, so what do you think is next for Dave as far as like, climbing the mountain of life, and what do you want to share with people? What do you want to like be known for? Like what are you looking for?
Well, I don't know. Oh man. Well, I'll tell you, I had this long term goal. I had a goal. One of my bucket list items my whole life was to run a marathon, and a week and 2 days ago, I finally ran a marathon for the first time in my life at the age of 51. And thanks. So that was a huge one. So that was a mountain I climbed. I finished it in 5 hours and 15 minutes roughly. It was like 12-minute, 15-second miles. We never stopped. I was so happy, proud of myself. And, for me, that was like pretty epic. And so now I'm just keeping get in shape. The next mountain to climb is the Tetons. I told my son-in-law that I'd climb the Grand with him. So like we plan on climbing the Grand like on my birthday or right around my birthday. And uh, anyway, but no, as far as like life is I'd love to be I'd love to have the ability to help students to see like their potential, and get closer to achieving their potential and believe in themselves more. If I could do anything, that would be it for sure. If you can be a friend with somebody and help them to believe in themselves, oh man, and believe that they have the amazing potential that they do. That would be the greatest gift God could ever give me, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. To have the ability to help people see more clearly what God sees in them, and you get like a glimpse, and you're able to like help, not necessarily turn on a light, but you're able to just bring this tiny little light bulb, like a tiny little thing, like just help them see a little more clearly. It doesn't have to be like this giant thing, but like even like a couple candles can really light up, a dark room, because light can't darkness can't really exist in the presence of light. When it's nighttime and it's dark and it gets light again, it's like there's literally no like darkness has to yield to that. It has to yield to the light.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't mess with the sun, Mother Nature. Yeah, that would be incredible.
That's cool. Yeah, I love that, and I'm eager to help you out with achieving that dream. We'll get this out there, and that'll be cool. I am curious too about the marathon, because I've talked to a couple people about marathons, and they said they always you learn something on a marathon just from that journey, from that experience. Was there anything that like came to mind, like, okay, I know this about Dave, and I'm taking this with me, this gem, I'm taking this with me?
Well, you know what? I guess the reason why I wanted to do it is to prove to myself that I could do it, and you suffer a lot. Like, but the longest run I had done before the marathon was 18 miles. I wanted to do 22, which is a lot better because going from 18 to 26 is 8 miles difference. Like that's 8 miles is a big run, and and it was painful. And but I guess the things that I want to say are sound like so common what people say, but the fact that you can do it is really cool. And then I realized like after the marathon, not that I'm comparing myself in a negative way, but my one of my neighbors, right? He ran the marathon in 3 hours and 30 minutes, which is an 8 minute mile. That's and he's about 45 years old, roughly. I don't know how old he is, but um, and I was like, man, can I run an 8 minute? Can I run 1 mile in 8 minutes? I guess if I could run 1 mile in 8 minutes, then I could run 2 miles in 8 minutes. If you can run 2 miles in 8 minutes, then you can probably do three. And if you can do three, like if you keep working at it. Anyway, I could not run a mile in 8 minutes. I tried on Saturday. This is a week after the marathon, so this is 2 days ago. But I did make it in 8 minutes and 1 second.
Way to go.
So, and which is like, I mean, that's faster than I've run since I was in, I don't know when, high schoolish. So, yeah, but if I did it again, I'd make it in 8 minutes. I'd make it in under eight. And so, yeah, we have this, like, we think we look at ourselves as like these defined things. We really do. It's the whole fixed mindset by Carol Dweck. I don't know if you read that book. That's truly one of the most epic, like, life-changing books. But we've most of us, at least I do, I have most of my life like viewed myself through the lens of like, this is Dave Harrell, and it's a lie. It's not true. God knows it's not true. We all know, like, when I see you down, I'd never look like that. And when you look at me, you don't look at me like that. You see my potential, I think. And anyway, so we are changing. Like, we can do it. Like, we can do harder things than we think we can do. Period. And I don't know. Anyway, there's so much help. I ran with my brother-in-law, my wife's brother, and one of his sons. The three of us ran, and Dallin, if you were there, you would have like loved and recorded the whole thing. We had like the most epic conversation, like for like 20 miles. The last 6 miles, I think we were just like actually the last 6 months we started like playing like music and stuff to try to distract us and try to keep the conversation going. But the first 20 miles were like this magical conversation, just like you have on your podcast. So I feel like there was a huge blessing that was there to help us, both of us. Like, my brother-in-law wasn't quite in shape to do a marathon. He had only gone like 8 miles or something, like, but he's been working out a lot too. So anyway, so there's also that, like, some help from above on being able to finish.
Help from above on being able to finish. Yeah. Yeah. It's a beautiful gift when we're able to persevere and continue. We're able to get some additional vision to help us keep going and keep trying amidst the struggle. What would you say have been some of those times where you felt like you really needed that vision, you needed to see more clearly? And what did you do to kind of like bridge that gap, or like keep going when you didn't see more clearly, I guess, than maybe you do now?
Yeah, well, you know, when I was mentioning, when I was in my mid 30s, that was a low moment where everything just kind of came crashing down. I was so busy in my life, I wasn't taking care of myself at all, and things just mentally like crashed on me. And that was a dark time. Like, my wife helped me find a counselor that was just like this amazing, loving man counselor that helped. And it was this huge process. It was a process. It was slow, and it was like, and even like I felt like the Lord like reaching down and helping me, sometimes rescuing me in the short term, but more often than not, it was like very, very gradual. Like, because He wants us to become like Him, so He wants us to learn, which is not like a quick fix usually. So um, yeah, so a lot of patience. For me, it was a lot of prayer. Like, I'm a believer in just like really, you know, kneeling down and just praying, just like asking God for help, and and then being patient, like uh we had these weird experience. I'll give it to you really, like, really fast down, but right on the other side of this wall right here is a little deck, and this bird like built a robin built a nest on top of on this 5 foot wood pile. I relocated this nest because we needed the wood. It was still like cold, and we put the nest on this 3 foot stool. So crazy experience. The robin accepts my relocation package, right? And she lays her eggs in the nest, and it's literally like you're standing there like this, and you look down. I could stand right here and there. Let's see. It's like right here is the nest, and I'm looking straight down in the eggs, And anyway, the eggs hatched, and and just like yesterday, they were actually they had the wings to fly. They've grown to that point. But the one thing I was looking at yesterday, I was like watching the birds, and they just sit there for hours like this, with their mouths open, waiting for their mom or dad. And both mom and dad were there feeding them. The dad had this cool little afro thing on his head, like the robin with like just a little bit of a cool hair. And they just sat there and waited and waited and waited and waited with their mouths open, And that's kind of how it is for us when we go through like the really hard times. It's not. We do all that we can do. Of course, we're not just sitting there waiting like infant birds that don't have the ability to do anything. We do everything we can, but at the same time, like a lot of times when we're really stretched, there's nothing we can do, and so we just sit there and wait. And so you got to wait sometimes, you know. You got to be patient on the Lord. Wait on the Lord, you know.
Yeah, no, I've been seeing that a lot recently. There's this really cool talk from member, like the message that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints put out from Elder Christofferson's life, and how he put all this money into a business and began to fail, and all of a sudden he was, from one point, like excited about this, like being on his knees, like, help, this is an economic crisis basically at this point for me and my family. And it took some time, but he was able to get enough to keep going. God always gave him enough to keep going. And it's like, here you go, and it wasn't like the deliverance wasn't immediate, but he definitely had enough to keep going. And that's how I look at life right now. It's like I talked with this guy, who's out working on one of my neighbor's yards, and it turns out he's like been retired for a couple years, and he does the landscaping thing just to stay busy. And he just was like, now I'm going to the gym, and it was like so cool to talk to him. And I'm like, wow, this is cool, instead of being like, there's like this preconceived notion like, oh, he working in this landscape company, probably has no like life, probably is like, beat up his wife. We can assume all this stupid stuff, so stupid. And the same thing goes of ourselves. And this is what I did, because I have this really quick mind, like super, super fast. It blows my mind how fast my mind can go. Where like we assume all this stuff about Dallin, and then we look at the facts. It's like, well, no, Dallin like served a mission. But not just that, he's trying to like do all this stuff. And it's like, I think Dallin is just it's taking time. He's learning and growing. There's no point in getting upset about that. So we just don't see the big picture, but God does. So there's just a lot of beauty in trusting that. But I love that story about the relocation thing, because I feel like that is something God is doing in me right now, is relocating and growing and being thankful for the process. There's part of me that was like, what in the world? Why am I living at my parents' house when I have a 4-year degree and I graduated and I had really good grades and stuff? And why did these jobs that were really good that I could have had in Utah, why did those fall through? Even though I would be making good money, blah, blah, blah. And it just kind of reminds me that God's looking at more than just how much money I make or where I'm able to live. He's looking at people I can impact. He's looking at conversations I'll have. He's looking at all that stuff. And because he's looking at all that stuff and not just the money, he's able to be like, Dallin will understand. He'll understand later. It's okay. And you can pray and get these reassurances. And it's sort of the Olaf. I love that song, Frozen 2. This will all make sense when I'm older. It's true. Like, this will all make sense when I'm older. And one mindset that I've adopted over the last year, so since college, is, things are all going to work out. So why get upset about anything right now? Because it's all going to work out anyway. It's like, I'm not going to be here super long. I've spent those times where I'm throwing things at the wall at myself and being frustrated. And I've found that God just never does that. He never picks up a stone. He never does that. So yeah, but I love that. The relocation process and being like, hey, I see that. You're kind of in my space. Let's kind of help you move that. Yeah, that's beautiful, though. Thanks for sharing, Dave.
Right. It's incredible. My wife had she was diagnosed at one point with like 4 or 5 different autoimmune sicknesses, and she struggled with health for years and years. Um, and then finally, like 18 years later, and she was partially handicapped, like she couldn't really bend over to pick things up off the floor. So I had helped a lot with all sorts of stuff, and but 18 years later, like things, she started learning about the mind body syndrome and all sorts of beautiful things, the power of our mind. And anyway, and when she looks back now and looks at her like story and where she was and where she is, she's very healthy now. Like she's kind of got one thing she's still working on with her eyes, uveitis stuff, inflammation in the eyes. But other than that, she's like really healthy. And anyway, but when you look back, it's just like you said. What was the song from Olaf? Like,
This all
Would you
makes
say that?
sense when I'm older.
This
Yeah.
all makes sense. Yeah. And it was the same for me. Like I struggled in my career, but my career led me to teach at BYU Idaho, and I wouldn't have made it. You can't teach at BYU Idaho unless you have like 10, 15 years of solid work experience in business. If you're in the business department, it's and so it's like when you look back, you're like, oh, I see what the Lord was doing. I see these beautiful things. Even though for 15 years you're frustrated, or whatever. So yeah, it it uh it does work out in the long term for sure.
Yeah, I think I'd echo on that. Like the Lord sees your experience as valuable. There's been a couple times last year where I was like, okay, yield today. No, I'm like getting in God's way. He's not happy with it, clearly, blah, blah, blah. And, it's taken some time, but I've been like, you know what? I've imagined what this looks like with me not having this. And I don't think the benefits outweigh the drawbacks. Like we wouldn't be having this conversation if I had ended the podcast,
Oh,
5 or 6 months ago, as I kind of wanted to. It's like, you know, but just kind of holding on to those little glimpses of light and having some people on. And the last couple months of doing the podcast, as far as interviewing people and stuff goes, have been some of the most like being like fully there, relaxed, etc. So like I've been missing some of the best parts. I feel like the podcast is starting to ramp up and starting to get somewhere, and I'm appearing on more podcasts because I've gotten more clear in who I am and what I do. And I believe the best is yet to come with the podcast and stuff. And, at some point it'll be like, wow, Dallin's been running this for 6 years, 7 years, and it makes a lot of sense. You can look at this line and all these different experiences, but it's all there, and there's beauty to documenting the journey and sharing that along the way through the high and the low.
it's amazing. I was just thinking, do you have any other questions? Because I wanted to like share one thing with your the listeners.
Yeah, yeah, share that and then let us know like how we can get in touch with you, how people can get in touch with you.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I just wanted to say like those that are listening, like if anything has resonated with you and if you're one of those that maybe you're like me and Dallin that didn't always believe in yourself, like give it time. Don't listen to the lies that you are a schmuck, you know, that you are never going to become amazing because you truly are. Like you truly are amazing, and God's not an idiot. Like He made you, and He will make you into incredible things. So don't don't underestimate your potential, and don't listen to the stupid thoughts that say otherwise.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
believe
I
that.
don't know. Probably the best way to reach me is on campus or shoot me an email at harold@byui.edu. It's HARRELLD at byui.edu. But I'd love to, help anybody, and get help from you too. There's so much like Dallin helped me a lot, just hanging out with Dallin was the coolest thing ever. He was such a gift to our classroom. So,
Oh, yeah. There's so many times where you'd like have like an orange, like, do you like oranges? Like, yeah. Then you like get out the orange and break up the orange. And I think another thing that comes to mind, Dave, I guess from you and your story is like when Jesus, fed the 5,000 and he turned the five breads of loaf and two fishes into enough to feed a ton of people. And I feel like that's something that you do is you give whatever you're able to give and you're able to help tons and tons and tons of students, like whenever I'd go to your class, like your like room sometimes would be like full, like people were like waiting to like come and talk to you and everything, like, and meet with you. And that's not a coincidence. It's because of how you like help people feel about themselves and their situation. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing to give that to people. And I really hope that somebody who hasn't taken your class is listening and be like, man, I want to give that a shot. Because my last semester I already had kind of a full course load, but I was like, I really want to take the spreadsheet analysis class. I know it's going to be difficult, but I just kind of want to take it just to take it. And because I had 3 elective credits left, I think. And I was like, okay, well, we could do some basic stuff, or, this kind of is there and I've heard from people I should take it. And yeah, it's like it's all there. So I haven't really used the knowledge as I would like to, but I know I've put in that work, and so sort of like exercise, like it's deep enough if I, and that is something
Yeah,
I'd like to do this
exactly.
year.
No, you got to work on it and keep up with it. Otherwise, you lose it a little bit, but it'll come back. It's like riding a
Yeah.
bike. It'll, yeah. And now, anyway, no, Dallin, it's been amazing talking with you, and let's keep in touch like we have been, and yeah, keep making this world a better place. Hopefully.
Yeah, keep spreading compassion and looking. I mean,
Yeah.
I love I think it's Mark 10:21 maybe, like Jesus beholding him loved him. He saw the rich
Uh,
young man, but he didn't see the rich young man. He saw the rich young man's potential. He saw what could happen. And because he saw that, he was willing to ask him those difficult questions,
that's an epic moment. That's an epic moment in the scriptures. Jesus beholding him loved him. Like before he gave him like the tough ask. Hey, give away everything you've got and follow me. Like he's like, no, he just looked at him. He just like loved him, and yeah, it's such a beautiful. I don't know. Then Jesus does that with us all the time. Every time we ask him something, when we say a prayer, he beholds us and he loves us. Before he doesn't answer us, or he answers us in a way that we don't want to hear, whatever, or he gives us an incredible blessing. You know, Either way, he's beholding us and loving us, like
yeah.
holding our cheeks, just like a little baby. Like yeah, we just had a grandchild. We just had our first grandchild down. That's the other big thing, and
Wow.
that's been amazing. So
That is so beautiful. Wow. Is it a boy or a
yeah,
girl?
girl,
Oh,
and she's super cute, and like you can stare at her in her eyes, and just like she's so interactive now. It's so much fun. So yeah,
that's beautiful. Yeah, I love that. I'm gonna take that with me for sure about the whole beholding thing, just how God sees these things more clearly than we do. And for me, I believe that I'll always have greater compassion on myself looking backwards than forwards. And
yeah,
so that's been the case. Like looking back at like when I was in your class, I'm like, bro, like he got like little sleep and he went to the class. He had this dinosaur computer, and everybody else in that class too. I have more on compassion on them too, even though I thought they were all great. Like I have more compassion on them now because of what's happened and what we've all learned, and it's just humbling. It's just really humbling. So
cool,
yeah.
dude.
Yeah, well, we'll have links to all that stuff in the show notes. And yeah, just thank you for so much for what you shared. And we just kind of went a little deeper because I was like, there's so much to Dave, and we'd have to have you back on again to even get more into Dave. But there is a lot of gems you shared here. So thank you so much.
Well, love you guys, and hang in there. Keep fighting through your fights, you guys. Don't
Yeah.
give up. It'll all work out. So.
Yeah. Love you too, Dave.
All right, Dan. Love you, man. Thanks a bunch. Super fun to see you.